Some of the most remarkable people that I've ever met, and actually some of the most remarkable people that you have ever met, that we've all met, are people that we could describe this way. They're the believe in spite of people. Have you ever met a believe in spite of person that they're going through difficult circumstances financially or with their health or with their family, or they're going through a divorce, or they're just going through difficult stuff, and yet their confidence in God is just like unshakable? And when you meet one of these folks, it's like, wow. There's a gentleman, you may have heard his name. His name is Dr. Francis Collins. Dr. Collins met one of those people when he was in med school doing rounds at a hospital in North Carolina. You may have heard his name because he served as the director of the Human Genome Project. Obviously a very, very bright guy. But when he was 27 years old, he's working at a hospital in North Carolina doing rounds as a student. And partly because he was in North Carolina, he kept bumping into Christians. People who were dying, had terminal diseases that could be somewhat treated, but that couldn't be cured. And so many of them are talking about their faith. And they're going to heaven, and they're going to be reunited with loved ones. And this was so unnerving to him. In fact, in his book called The Language of God, he says this: if faith was a psychological crutch, it must be a very powerful one. If it was nothing more than a veneer of cultural tradition, let me translate this for you. In other words, if this is just something people in the South do, if this is just what uneducated people do, then why, he said, why were these people not shaking their fist at God and demanding their friends and family stop all this talk, this nonsense about a loving and benevolent supernatural power? I mean, they're dying and God's not answering their prayer, and yet they still have faith. Then one afternoon, he walks into a room where there was a woman dying of, I think it was congenital heart disease. And she had talked to him before and mentioned her faith and heaven and all that kind of stuff. But on this particular day, she says, "Doctor, I've told you what I believe. Doctor, what do you believe?" And this question ended up changing his life. He says in the book, he said, I just turned red. I kind of stammered, well, I'm not really sure. And then, and this is his word, not mine, and this may be your word, you just haven't embraced it yet. He said, faced with my willful blindness. Willful blindness. That is, I haven't seen, but I'm not really looking. I don't know, but I haven't really asked the question. There may be something more, but I've never explored it. He said, faced with my willful blindness and my arrogance, I began a journey. And he decided to see what could be seen and to try to discover what could be discovered. And in the end, he discovered that there was something to the claims of Christ. In fact, that the claims of Jesus as found in the Gospels were so compelling, he became a Christian. In other words, there was more evidence than he thought there was, but he never knew there was evidence until he looked. Now, here's the cool thing. Jesus predicted this, and John helped. Jesus predicted it and John helped. Jesus said, I'm going to give you enough evidence to believe. And John said, you know what? I want people to know what I know, to hear what I've heard, to see what I've seen, so that they can believe like I believe. Because at the end of the day, we said this last week, that Christianity, at the end of the day, Christianity is not about just believing. It's not, well, just believe. We just believe and believe. Just have faith in faith. And it's not about taking it by faith, whatever it is. Walking by faith is not walking by hope. And walking by faith is not walking by wishful thinking. Walking by faith is living every single day of your life as if Jesus is who Jesus claimed to be. Walking by faith is living every single day of your life as if what Jesus said is true. To walk by faith, to live by faith, is to live as if your sin really is forgiven. That God is not going to hold it against you. That you don't have to confess it over and over and over and over. That you don't have to pay God back because God isn't looking to be paid back, because that's what Jesus taught and that's what Jesus illustrated, and that was the significance of his death that happens at the end of the Gospel of John. It's to live as if, for some of you, this is the hardest part. It's to live as if you really are loved unconditionally. Not because of anything you did. To walk by faith is to live with the confidence that your faith and your sacrifice and your commitment and your generosity are not in vain, because they are anchored to something real and someone